Every weekend, the same scene was repeated in the family as a poorly written script. The mother-in-law suddenly gets sick and requires help with household chores, while the daughter-in-law drags on all fours to rub the floors of the large three-bedroom house. Mother and son settle on the couch, plunged into novels and snacks. Twice she swallowed her pride and gave in, but in the third, something inside it snapped. Good night, dear listeners. Here is Andre Branco, and it is with immense pleasure that I receive them once again at Souls and Family. Today, I bring a story that will make you rethink the boundaries between kindness and exploitation. Prepared? Let's go. Daria noticed the standard for the first time in October. Every Friday night, as if it were a scheduled commitment, Tamara Vidorovna, her mother-in-law, was beginning to complain of mysterious pain. Coincidence or not, it was just when she and the Maximum, her husband, arrived for the weekend dinner. "Oh, my back, it's unbearable," moaned the lady of 53, pressing her hand on the lower back with a soap opera dramatism. "And these knees, it must be the change of time. Dear Daria, you wouldn't mind washing the floors, don't I? I just can't bend." Interestingly, despite the debilitating pains, Tamara Vidorovna had enough energy to prepare a full table, carrying cookware and platters from the kitchen to the living room without blinking. Maximum, without even looking at his wife, was already settling in the armchair next to his mother, connecting the television. "Of course, Tamara Vidorovna," said Daria, "because she refuses it seemed a rudeness. After all, who would say not to a sick woman? But such cleaning was a Herculean mission. Parquet in the living room, tiles in the kitchen and bathroom, linoleum in the hall and bedrooms. Everything had to shine." As she dragged on her knees, the idée error and cloth in her hand, her mother-in-law and her husband devoured cookies and analyzed the dramas of a soap opera over unhappy rich. "Look, Maximum, that's silly. Believe in the Sergio Convioras," said Tamara, outraged. "But yesterday you said they combined." "Mother," laughed their son. "Yesterday they agreed. Today no longer. A man has to act, not only speak beautiful," said the mother-in-law. Derry, rubbing the floor in the next room, he heard everything and thought, "What actions, after all, does my own husband do? Sit next to mom while the wife does the dirty work in the house of others." In the second weekend, the script was repeated with a variation. This time, it was unbearable headache that left Tamar on the edge of a fainting. Even so, she was able to prepare a four-person dinner and even bake an apple pie. "My flowers, help me. Please, this pain is killing me. I can't even look at the floor," he pleaded, with a theatrical sigh. Derry, without a word, he took the bucket and started the task. This time, the cleaning lasted almost 3 hours. It was not enough to wash the floors. It was necessary to skin the baseboards, clean behind the radiators, and wash the bathroom carpets. Meanwhile, the mother-in-law, miraculously recovered, told her son the last gossip of the building, especially about Lamilla, the neighbor of the apartment in front. Imagine, Maximum, her son, Artem, yesterday climbed into the elevator until the top floor just for fun, and still showed me my tongue when I went to rebuke it. It's lack of education. Yes, in the past, the children were well created. Tamara shred. "Mom, he's just a child," he tried to defend his son. "There is no excuse. In my day, that was unthinkable. Good thing you were created right." Derry, skinning the fat of the stove, almost laughed. Created law was that? A 30-year-old man who lets his mother explore his wife as a maid. Third weekend began as the others. Tamar welcomed them on the door with a sour expression and her hand on her chest. "Oh, my God, the pressure must have climbed. I'm destroyed. Badly standing," dragged the words, as if every syllable was a superhuman effort. "Darina, my angel, sorry to ask, but the floors need to be washed. Today I can't stand or move." However, on the table, a feast was waiting for them, and in the bowl, fresh dumplings, clearly made that morning. Derry looked at the mother-in-law, then to her husband, who already stretched her hand toward the remote control. It was then that something inside her clicked. "Of course, Tamara Vidorovna," he replied, with a sweet smile like poisoned honey. "Cleaning is already beginning." She headed for the bathroom, filled a bucket of cold water and, generously, poured out floor detergent, dishwasher, washing powder, and, by warranty, a little shampoo. The foam rose to the edge, threatening overflowing. It started through the room, where the mother-in-law and Maximum were already installed, mesmerized by television. Daria dived the squeegee in the mixture and began to rub the parquet with dedication, twisting him over the bucket so that soapy water jets flew everywhere. "Be careful, honey," Tamara complained when a few drops splashed in his slippers. "Ah, sorry," answered Daria, innocent, before diving the squeegee again and sending a new response toward the couch. Maximum frowned, but said nothing, just collected her legs. She rubbed hard, getting closer and closer to the couch. A thick layer of foam covered the floor, turning it into an ice rink. It's a lot of foam. No, the mother-in-law was concerned. It's to clean better, Daria explained, poking the bucket with his foot. Oops, the container shook, and a wave of soaked water poured the feet. Just, the woman shouted and pulled her legs, but it was late. The slippers were soaked. Daria, protested Maximum, annoyed. Oh, what distracted I am, she exclaimed. But instead of cleaning the pool, she spread it even more with a squeegee, covering the entire floor of the room with a slippery film. Tamara tried to get up, but slipped and fell back on the couch. What are you doing? He shouted. Washing the floors. As you asked, said Daria. Serena, now I need to make the kitchen. She took the bucket and moved on, leaving behind a trail of soap and water. In the kitchen, he repeated the process. He threw more water, more foam, rubbed hard, spraying walls, furniture, and stove. Derry, stop that now! Maximum tried to enter, but slipped at the door and almost fell, holding on the stop. What is it, love? She asked, without stopping rubbing. I'm just doing what your mother asked. He moved to the corridor, then to the bedroom, leaving a slippery trap in each room. Tamar tried to follow her, but every step slipped, clinging to the walls and the furniture. Did you go crazy? He shouted. Look what you did. What's wrong? Asked Daria, with false ingenuity. The floors were clean, just a little wet. The house had become a skating rink. Tamara could not walk without risk of falling, and Maximum barely sustained standing. Now the dynamics had changed. And finally, smile inside. I need to go to the bathroom, said Daria, with a suspicious enthusiasm. Inside, he poured the rest of the soaked mixture directly over the tiles and began to spread it with the broom, as if painting an abstract foam frame. In seconds, the walls were covered in half, and the floor turned into a treacherous ice rink. Enough, ruged Maximum, trying to force passage, but slipped and hit his shoulder tightly on the door shoulder. Enough, is it? Repeated Daria, with a too sweet smile to be sincere. I haven't finished yet. Shops need to be cleaned. And behind the radiators, do you remember how dirty it was? Don't you remember? Tamara Viktorovna tried to drag onto the phone to call the firefighters or the police, but his feet TR'd there once more. He fell sideways on the couch, soaking his clothes in the soapy water that now dripped throughout the upholstery. Did you lose your head? Crazy? He shouted, shaking his arms as if he could chase the madness he had taken over the house. I'm just helping a sick mother-in-law, Daria replied, serenely, while cheering the broom on the sink, throwing foam jets into the mirror and the cosmetic shelves. Maximo tried to pull the broom from his hands, but another slide almost threw him into the bathtub. Daria dodged the grace of a dancer without stopping the work. Do you know something? She said, turning to them with a dangerous glow in her eyes. Since I have my hands dirty, how about washing the windows too? No, shouted Tamar's desperate choir in Maximum. As you want, he shrugged, as if he were the most reasonable person in the room. So it's over. The floors are impeccable, as you asked. He left the bucket and broom in the bathroom, put on the jacket, and headed for the exit, dancing between the foam puddles like a game of children. Where do you think you are going? Asked Maximus, stunned. Home, she replied without looking back. I have my own apartment, where I can sit alone without risk of fracturing my hip. And dinner, glamorized Tamara Viktorovna, as if that could change something. Ask your best to serve. His hands work perfectly, unlike your back. Daria closed the door behind him, leaving behind the chaos he had sowed in, most importantly, the lesson they needed to learn. An hour later, the phone rang. It was Maximum, panting. Did you freak out for good? He said. We spent 2 hours cleaning this foam shit, but the floors are clean, said Daria, with a calm that only increased his irritation. That's what your mother wanted, wasn't it? She asked to clean, not to drown the house. He exploded. Next time, explain the difference between help and explore. Until then, have fun with the consequences. He hung up the phone and prepared a tea, savoring the silence for the first time in months. The following week, Tamara Viktorovna didn't call, and on Friday, it was Maximum who hesitated to suggest, maybe we stay home this weekend. We can have fun here too. Daria raised an eyebrow. What happened? Your mother is no longer sick on weekends. He blushed and looked away. She said, who realizes the cleaning alone. How interesting, Darius muttered, with a smile that was not cruel, but either was innocent. A medical miracle. A month later, Tamara Viktorovna finally invited them back. This time, however, the reception was different. The house was impeccable, not a word about back pain. When Daria offered help with cleaning, the mother-in-law retreated as if she had seen a ghost. No, no, honey, don't worry. I do everything myself. Are you sure? Asked Daria, with a sweetness that made goosebumps. I can guarantee the same cleaning quality the last time. Tamar paled and shook her hands as if a bad omen would walk away. No way. I mean, thank you, but I prefer it. Never again the mother-in-law has complained about health problems on Saturdays. Worse, he began to treat Daria with exaggerated courtesy, asking for his plans, his desires, as if he did not verbalize a request for forgiveness with each sentence. 6 months later, the real miracle occurred. Maximum, for the first time in marital life, he offered to help his mother with cleaning. I give a hand, Mom. You don't have to do everything alone. Tamar Viktorovna looked at him with tears in his eyes, as if he had seen his son rise. And Daria? Daria just smiled, watching the scene with the satisfaction of who knows that sometimes Justice does not wear toga, wears rubber gloves and a bucket of water. Because it was a day of soap chaos, 4 years of toxic dynamics. 2 years later, the family was different. Tamar Viktorovna not only stopped overloading her daughter-in-law, but she came to offer really help. When the daughter of Daria and Maximil was born, the mother-in-law became more dedicated to her grandmother, exchanging diapers and telling stories without ever implying that the mother of the child should do more. Maximum, in turn, she became an attentive husband, as if those 2 hours scraping foam from the floor had recorded an indelible lesson. The work of Daria had value, and no one, not even her own mother, would be allowed to disrespect him. To this day, when someone asks how she got such a transformation, Daria just smiles and says that sometimes the best way to teach boundaries is leaving everything slippery. Because it was that day, between muffled and unsafe laughs, that she proves something simple. When it comes to MANIPUIDENTS, the answer is not in arguing, it is acting. And in this case, acting meant turning a house into a moral skating ring, where in the end everyone learned to stand alone.